Hi, boys and girls.
We're at our garage. Let's see what we're driving today. Looks like a 2017 Volvo S90 with the T6 engine package. This is a very attractive car. I've been getting a lot of compliments on it. I like the fact that this is a unique shape instead of other manufacturers who seem to be copying all the other guys. This blue metallic paint helps for the appearance, and it cost an extra $600, but probably worth it. Volvo shipped this all the way from South Carolina just for us. Thank you, Volvo. Officially, the Volvo is a Swedish car. Not many people know that the Chinese purchased the company some time ago, which breathed a lot of cash and life into the Volvo brand, which is why we have the car we see here. There are rumors on the internet that these Volvos are made in China by day workers making 50 cents an hour. That's not true. In fact, if we look at the window sticker, 40% of the parts are from Sweden, 15% in Germany. Transmission made in Japan. And all these parts are sent to Gothenburg, Sweden, where Swedes put it together, not Chinese. So there you go. In fact, since I have the Windows sticker, let's look at some pricing starting at $52,950. There's a $3,300 luxury package. I won't read it off. You can see the list right here. Another $1,950 for the 360-degree view camera. Climate package with heads-up display, another $1,950. $1,000 for a convenience package, $2,650 for that Bowers & Wilkins premium sound system, which sounds very good, by the way. We'll talk about that later. And a whole list of other goodies, bringing us to only $66,105. What a bargain. For those interested, here's the warranty information. Sorry about the shaky camera, folks, but hey, it's cheap equipment. What can I tell you? In fact, this sophisticated headlight system probably cost about 10 times more than my camera. We're going to be taking that out in the dark to see how they perform. Let's do that right now. Okay, it's dark enough. Let's see how these headlights perform. If you click on the key fob, you can see Thor's hammer lighting up in the headlight lens. If you don't know what Thor's hammer is, you can look that up on the internet. Here we have the headlights positioned on a wall 100 feet away, more than adequate light, very bright. Now let's go from the low beam to the high beam. Wow. Very bright and very impressive. Here we have the brights set on a building 300 feet away, and as you can see, gobs of light. Some of the best headlights I've ever used thus far. Go to low beam, just barely reaches out and a very wide spread. By the way, if you look close up, you can see the heads-up display in the windshield. These headlights do turn with the steering wheel for taking tight corners. Very aggressively, I might add. Like so. These are definitely the best headlights I've ever tested in an automobile. If you do a lot of driving at night, you'll be very pleased with these. Normally on a luxury car like this, if you don't expect a V8, you would at least expect a V6 engine under the hood. Not to be. The only engine offered is a 2.0 liter. That's right, a tiny, tiny 2.0 liter. About the same size power plant you get in these small $12,000 economy cars. In spite of its small size, this little power plant puts out a whopping 316 horsepower. It's capable of that because it not only has a turbocharger, it also has a supercharger. That's right, a turbo and supercharged. That explains all the plumbing under here. In fact, all I see is plumbing. I think there's an engine down there somewhere. Those poor mechanics that have to work on these. All T6 engines are connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission with a manual shift override. The transmission is hooked up to an all-wheel drive system, which gives you 4-wheel traction, coming in handy if you're driving in rain, mud, or snow. Fuel economy is rated at 22 mpg in the city, 31 on the highway, with an average of 25 mpg. In mixed city commuting, I've been getting actually 24.5. If we look at the car's computer system, which is rather difficult because I'm getting a lot of reflections on the screen here. So we'll do a close-up. In the past 1,100 miles, this vehicle has averaged 24.4 mpg, which is what I've been getting in mixed city highway commuting for the past 200 miles, which is reasonably good considering the size of the car. For those on a budget, there's a less powerful 4-cylinder engine putting out 250 horsepower called the T5. That vehicle will start at $46,000. But this more powerful T6 is a lot more fun. Now it's time to take a look at the cabin, which is one of the fanciest I've ever seen. The entire cabin is loaded with this fancy smooth leather, real wood, and lots of chrome. They didn't cut any cost here. So if I took this chocolate sundae inside this Volvo with these nice cream leather seats and accidentally spilled it on the interior, do you think Volvo would be upset? I don't think we better take a chance on that. Forget it. We get a nice, easy to read gauge cluster. A large glove box. Not much for console storage space, but it's better than nothing. The usual cup holders. If you're looking for the starter button, which is usually on most cars around the steering wheel or on the dash, you're not going to find it. You need to look behind the shift knob. Right there. Unusual, but it works. If you watch my videos, you know I'm a fan of very simple mechanical knobs and mechanical buttons. However, in this car, the only mechanical knob you're going to see is down here, the volume knob for the stereo. On this vehicle, almost everything is controlled on this touch screen. You start the vehicle, this is what pulls up your navigation, media, phone, sound experience. Put your finger on the screen, and now we've gone to a different mode. The camera controls, the head-up display, distance alert, etc., etc. Here we have the radio settings, car status, driver performance. For your climate control, set the temperatures here. Set the fan speed here. A lot of other automotive reviewers have commented on this system, saying they love it. It's just like being in your house and operating your computer. Well, that's true. The difference is your house isn't moving down the freeway at 75 miles per hour. And if it was, you would want to keep your eyes on the road, not on a screen like this. And that's the problem with these screen program systems. You have to take your eyes off the road to control everything. Versus a simple knob like this, where you don't have to look, you just put your hand down and feel. Don't misunderstand, I'm not saying this is a bad system, I'm just saying it's somewhat different. It takes a lot of getting used to in order to figure out how this all works. In any case, make sure you practice, because the last thing you want to do is be messing with this while you're driving if you don't know what you're doing. On another subject, the main advantage of this big screen is you get an excellent 360-degree view camera system that makes parking very, very easy. Like so. You also have 4 individual camera settings. Here's the rear view, the front view, the left view, and the right view. This is part of that $2,000 optional package we looked at on the window sticker earlier. Well worth the money. Somebody on YouTube commented that this interior is maybe a little bit too fancy with all this wood and leather. I believe they said something a Mafia Don would be sitting in. Yeah, maybe something a Mafia Don would be laying in if he was in his coffin, right? Okay, enough talk about features. It's time to do some driving. If you're going to drive a Volvo S90, it's very important you understand the tire pressure settings. When I first got this vehicle, I found the ride comfort to be extremely smooth, maybe a little bit too smooth, but the handling not that great. So I took my trusty tire gauge, checked the tire pressures, 34 pounds all around, which is the industry standard. So I checked the manufacturer's plate, which tells me 39 pounds of air should be in these tires, not 34, which I feel is a bit on the high side, but hey, it's what they say, so it's what I put in. Now the handling is improved like about 400%. As far as ride quality, about the same, but there's a lot of thumping on potholes and speed bumps. But we're going to take it out in some speed bumps right now and see how it does. Okay, here we go. 25 to 30 miles per hour. Speed bump number 1. Heard it, but didn't feel it. Again, heard it, but didn't feel it. Now here comes the big nasty one. About the same. A lot of noise, but didn't feel too much, so that's pretty good. By the way, this vehicle has 4 performance modes, which is difficult to see because once again the sun is washing out the screen. Eco mode, comfort mode, dynamic mode, and individual mode. The comfort mode is fine for everyday use, but if you're in a hurry, dynamic works pretty good too. The automotive publications claim this vehicle can reach 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds, but we all know they lie a bit and cheat. I find it closer to 6 seconds, but that's quick enough. Still hard to believe this is a tiny 4-cylinder. These brakes are fantastic, by the way, about as perfect as you get. By the way, I forgot to mention that all T6 engines are attached to an 8-speed automatic, as well as all-wheel drive. And since all-wheel drive puts a lot of drag on the engine, I'm very impressed with the performance even more. The power steering system is electric. In spite of that, it does have pretty good feel and response. I suspect being attached to a four-wheel drive system has something to do with that, but that's just my opinion. Let's take it on the old turning circle. See if we can spin it out. A bit of body lean, as I would expect on a soft riding vehicle like this, but these Pirelli tires are doing a great job of sticking to the pavement. This engine has a computer-operated start-stop system. What it does is every time you go to a stoplight, the engine shuts off to save fuel. At least in theory. In practice, it really doesn't. And it's very annoying, as on most cars that have these, so if you want to disconnect it, it's very easy. You have two ways to do that. The first thing you can do is click on the drive mode and go from comfort to dynamic. That turns off the start-stop system. Or you can pull up the menu screen and just turn it off this way. You know, I'm really starting to like this car, so I think I want to take it on some extended road trips so we can explore better fuel economy figures and the performance advantages. But before we do that, I want to point out 3 minor complaints I had. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay, gripe number 1, the sun visors. They do not slide left or right. So on the side windows, there's this big gap where the sun comes in and bakes your face. I mean, come on guys. Volvo, you've been making cars for how many years? This is very easily solved by a redesign. I hope they do it on the next generation. Otherwise, the only thing you can do in the meantime is put some tint on the windows. Okay, gripe number 2. You can see how the dash is reflecting into the windshield. I mean, we're seeing everything here. The ventilation, the speakers, the heads-up display. Now, this isn't a big deal. It only happens on bright sunny days at certain angles, but it is kind of annoying. There's not much you can do about it, except get used to it. And the same situation applies to the rear windows. As you can see, all of these stereo speakers are reflecting into the glass. Again, not a serious concern, just annoying. And last but not least, the rocker panels under the door are extremely wide, which means every time you get out of the car, your pant legs are rubbing on the bodywork, which wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for what I call the infamous dirt shelf, which seems to be a common feature on most European cars. If you drive where there's lots of snow and mud on the roads, you're going to get a lot of mud and snow on this bodywork. And when you get out of the vehicle, it's going to get right on your pants. Now, I've been lucky this week. The weather's perfect, but 2 weeks ago there was lots of snow and mud. I had another vehicle with a similar design. I had to carry a bottle of Windex and paper towels in the car to keep it clean. And if you live where it's snowy and muddy, you might have to do the same thing here. I want to make clear the 3 gripes I just listed are not deal killers that would not stop me from wanting to buy this car, will probably not stop you from wanting to buy this car. But I mention them because, well, that's what we do here. We test vehicles, we show all the good points and some of the negative points. It's that simple. In fact, I was enjoying this Bowers & Wilkins stereo so much, I forgot about the 3 complaints in a hurry. This is really one of the best stereo systems I've ever had in a vehicle. Worth every penny of the $2,600. We're going to take the S90 on an extended freeway trip to see what type of fuel economy we can squeeze out of it. So stay tuned for those figures. By the way, this is a very nice highway cruiser, very smooth, comfortable, and quiet. Here's our highway fuel economy. We did 116 miles, averaging 68 miles per hour, 28.2 miles per gallon. Not bad for a 2-ton vehicle, I would say. This is our second highway fuel economy test. As you can see, we did 47 miles, averaging 67 miles per hour at 34 miles per gallon. However, I must point out we were going slightly downhill from an elevation of 2,500 feet to around 1,200 feet, so we cheated a bit. But still, it's a good figure, and I think it's the best we're ever going to see. With the tires pumped up to 39 pounds and the computer transmission in the dynamic mode, this vehicle takes corners rather well. As you can see, we're running into a lot of snow and ice here, which is why the all-wheel drive traction comes in handy. What do you mean you're closed? I'm freezing and starving. I drove all the way up here for nothing. Maybe I'll eat some snow. Okay, I'm freezing and I'm starving, so we're going back to town. We're going to end this trip and give my final opinion about this Volvo S90 T6. So let's do it. You know, these brakes are just awesome. I don't think you could overheat them if you tried. I'm very impressed. We're done with our test, and here's my take on the Volvo S90 T6. First of all, it's got the best headlight system of any vehicle I've ever driven. They should clone these and put them on every car on the planet. This Bowers & Wilkins stereo is the best sound system I've ever had in a vehicle as well. Maybe they should clone this and put it in every vehicle on the planet too. This is the smoothest 4-cylinder power plant I've ever driven, far superior to the turbo and supercharged versions we get out of Germany. And that's a pretty good compliment coming from me because I'm a fan of V8s myself. The brake system in this car is 100% perfect. The ride is extremely comfortable and the wind noise is very low, great for long trips. A gorgeous interior. And while I'll never be a fan of these finger touch screen control systems, I must admit after a week of practicing I got past the learning curve. I still prefer mechanical buttons and knobs, but I'll give this one a pass. As far as my complaining about the sun visors, the griping about the reflections in the windshield, the annoyance of the dirt shelf, I'm willing to overlook those 3 minor flaws because the rest of the car is so nice. Why complain? This is actually one of the best sedans I've ever driven. I was very, very impressed. If you got 66 grand to spend on a car, you don't want to go with the Germans, the British, or the Asians. This Volvo S90 is definitely worth looking at. This is definitely one car I did not want to give back. For those with more money to spend, we did a test on the Jaguar XJL. We have a video for that coming up.